You're looking for balance in all the wrong places. Around 500 BC in China, a teacher named Confucius watched society tear itself apart. Kingdoms at war, families divided, communities collapsing. Everyone blamed external forces, bad rulers, corrupt officials, enemies at the gates. Confucius looked at the same chaos and saw something different. The problem wasn't out there, it was in here. Every person walking around completely out of balance with themselves, then wondering why the world around them was falling apart. He spent his life teaching one simple idea that nobody wanted to hear. Fix yourself first. Then everything else follows. Back then, China was in pieces. The Zhou dynasty was crumbling. Warlords fought for power. Moral decay was everywhere. People believed the solution was external. Better laws, stronger armies, different leaders. Get the right people in charge, and society would be fixed. Confucius watched reformers try this approach over and over. It never worked. Because you can't create harmony in society when every individual is at war with themselves. Today, you're doing the same thing. You blame your job for your stress, your partner for your unhappiness, the government for your problems, social media for your anxiety. And you keep thinking if those external things would just change, you'd finally have peace. Confucius would say, you're looking in exactly the wrong direction. So what did he see that we're still missing? Confucius had this concept he called the cultivation of the self. It wasn't about meditation or spirituality. Someone who's developed their character to the point where external chaos doesn't throw them off center. Most people thought this was irrelevant. They had real problems. Political problems. Economic problems. Family problems. They needed practical solutions, not some abstract teaching about self-improvement. Confucius would say, that's backwards. Your external problems are symptoms of internal imbalance. You can't solve them from the outside in. You have to work from the inside out. He broke it down simply. Start with yourself. Cultivate virtue. Learn self-control. Develop wisdom. Understand your own reactions. Master your own impulses. Once you've done that, your family relationships improve. When your family is in harmony, your community becomes stable. When communities are stable, the nation becomes peaceful. The order always flows from the individual outward, never the other way around. Most people tried to reverse this. They wanted to fix the nation first, thinking that would fix their personal lives. Confucius watched them fail repeatedly. You can't build a stable structure on a shaky foundation. If you're internally chaotic, everything you build externally will eventually collapse. Because the foundation was never solid to begin with. Watch how this plays out. A man is angry, impatient, ruled by his impulses. He blames his wife for the problems in his marriage. Maybe she is difficult. But even if he leaves her and finds someone else, he brings the same anger, the same impatience, the same lack of self-control to the new relationship. It was him, or someone is dissatisfied with their life. They blame their job, their city, their circumstances, so they change everything. New job, new city, new friends. 6 months later, they're just as dissatisfied. Different setting, same internal state. They thought changing the external would fix the internal. Confucius would say that's impossible. This is what balance actually means to Confucius. It's not about work-life balance or scheduling more self-care. It's about internal equilibrium. Your emotions in check. Your desires under control. Your reactions measured. Your values clear. When you have that internal stability, External circumstances stop controlling you. Good things happen and you don't get arrogant. Bad things happen and you don't fall apart. You remain centered regardless of what's swirling around you. Most people don't have this. They're completely reactive. Something good happens and they're euphoric. Something bad happens and they're devastated. They ride an emotional roller coaster controlled by circumstances they can't manage. Then they wonder why life feels so chaotic. Life isn't chaotic. They are. Confucius talked about the superior person versus the inferior person, not in terms of status or intelligence, in terms of where they place their focus. The inferior person is always looking outward, blaming others, demanding the world change to suit them, convinced their problems are someone else's fault. The superior person looks inward first. What can I control? What can I improve? What part of this situation is actually my responsibility? The inferior person wants external validation, needs approval, requires constant reassurance that they're okay. The superior person validates themselves. They know their own values. They don't need the crowd to confirm they're on the right path. Think about your life right now. Where are you looking for balance? Probably outside yourself. You want your schedule to be less demanding, your relationships to be easier, your responsibilities to lighten up. You're waiting for external circumstances to shift so you can finally feel balanced. Confucius would say, you're waiting for something that will never come, because balance doesn't come from external arrangement, it comes from internal cultivation. Here's what this looks like practically. You're angry at someone. The inferior person blames them completely, justifies the anger, nurtures it. The superior person asks, why am I actually angry? Is this about them or about something unresolved in me? What does this anger reveal about my own expectations or fears? They take responsibility for their emotional state even when someone else triggered it. Or you're stressed about work. The inferior person complains about the workload, the boss, the system. The superior person asks, what part of this stress is actually necessary? Am I creating additional stress through poor boundaries, unrealistic expectations, or inability to say no? They separate real external pressure from self-created internal pressure. This doesn't mean you never address external problems. It means you start with yourself. Get your own house in order first. Then you're in a position to actually help with external issues. But trying to fix the world while you re-internally a mess just creates more chaos disguised as activism or concern. Confucius was insistent about this. He said if everyone focused on cultivating themselves, there would be no need for harsh laws or strict enforcement. People who are internally balanced naturally behave well. They don't need external control because they have internal discipline. But when people are internally chaotic, no amount of external rules will create order. They'll just find ways around them, or resent having to follow them. Look at modern society. More laws than ever, more rules, more systems of control. And yet, more chaos, because the rules are trying to force external order on internally disordered people. It doesn't work. It never has. Confucius knew this 2,500 years ago. We're still trying to prove him wrong and failing. The path to harmony is always the same. Start with yourself. Not in a selfish way. In a foundational way. Become the kind of person who doesn't add chaos to every situation you enter. Someone who brings stability instead of drama, clarity instead of confusion, calm instead of reactivity. That's not easy. It requires constant self-examination, constant correction, constant growth. It's much easier to just blame everyone else and demand they change. Most people choose easy. Then they wonder why nothing improves. Right now, list the problems in your life. Really think about them. Your relationships, your career, your stress level, your dissatisfaction. Now ask yourself honestly, how much of this is actually external and how much is internal? How much would change if you changed? Not if circumstances changed, but if you changed your character, your reactions, your habits, your discipline. Probably most of it. That's both the bad news and the good news. Bad because it means you can't just blame outside factors. Good because it means you actually have power to fix it. You don't have to wait for your boss to change, or your partner to improve, or society to get better. You can start right now with the one thing you actually control: yourself. Confucius believed peace begins within, not as some abstract spiritual concept, as a practical reality. A person at peace with themselves creates peaceful relationships. Peaceful relationships create stable communities. Stable communities create harmonious societies. But it always starts with the individual. Always. There are no shortcuts. You're looking for balance in circumstances, schedules, external arrangements. Stop, look inward. That's where balance lives. That's where it's always lived. Fix that foundation and everything else starts to shift. Keep ignoring it and nothing external will ever be enough. The chaos you see outside is a mirror of the chaos inside. Fix the mirror first. More forgotten wisdom next time.